tying ties. Now, if you're going to tie ties, I came across a book once, I think it said something like 70 or 72 ways to tie a tie, 72 different knots. There are not 72 different knots, there are two. Only two that you'll ever need to learn and that should ever be taken seriously. There's the 4-in-hand and the Windsor knot. Now, if you're even going to attempt to tie any tie at all or buy a tie, don't buy ties like this one. This is so thick, it's almost like a duvet. I can make an overcoat out of something this thick. And you're never going to be able to get a nice waist on your tie like that. So throw that away. This is a lovely tie. It's quite thin, but it's English woven silk. It's made in the Turnbull and Nassau factory for Geeves and Hawkes. I know this because I picked it up at the factory myself. Now, all ties have different ratios. Some are a little bit thinner. So start at the right place for the tie when you get to know it. Now, the tail of the tie will be in the same place. It doesn't get any longer or shorter. This is the one that will lose some of its length. So we start off over like that. Always hold it like that. And don't do this sort of thing, looking down on it like that. Don't do that. It should be up here when you're tying it. So, round the front, hold on to it. Round the back, round the front again. And at this point, just check that that is the right size that you want for your knot. So, round the back, over through that little bit, and always keep hold of the knot, and then very gently, without any jerky movements, push that down in there, pull it up gently. It's easy to damage a tie if you pull them too hard. Now ease it up slowly, so it's nice and tight. Then the final thing, the most important thing, is at the end we want to get a narrow waist on, it's like a cross like that, so the middle bit has to be really narrow. So you hold the tie like that and push upwards there, and that should give you a nice shape on the knot. And when you take it off, do everything in reverse, very gently take the tie off. It's very easy to damage a tie. And don't do any of this kind of thing. Always take the tie off, roll it up, and put it back in your wardrobe. As I said, there's only two ways to tie a tie, and as long as I'm not in a hurry, and you must never attempt to do a Windsor knot if you're in a hurry, because there's almost a spiritual aspect to it. Now, start with a tiny different position, because you're going to need a lot of narrow bit of tie like this. So this will be a little bit higher up, you use more tie. So here we go. Start over like that, but instead of going around the back, we go over like that. Then we wrap that round the back, and do the same at this side, just gently like that. Now what you should finish up with at this point is a perfect triangle with a sort of slit in it like that. So it should be balanced the same side. Now the bit that you're going to wrap round the front, make sure you're happy with it, because this is how big your knot's going to be. If it's too big, then go back and start again with a different position. But let's just see how this one comes out. I've got a funny feeling this is going to be a little bit bigger than I'd like. Now, the same as the 4-in-hand, gently put it up to your collar, and then create a nice waist by holding it like that, pushing up. So you get a nice, imagine it should be like a cross like that. Now I'm not looking in the mirror as I'm doing this, but that should be okay. And that's the Windsor knot. Cravats. I've been wearing cravats since I was in the south of France, age 17, being a tourist guide. Always had a cravat, so I've pretty much got a good record on cravats. Probably at that time I didn't know that I would be making them at some point. Very fortunate in that my factory was in Ipswich, just a few miles from Sudbury, where, well, that's the home of English woven silk. Got two great companies there, Vanner's and Stephen Walters, that make really beautiful English woven silk. They've both got little factory shops where you can go and buy surplus stuff. Might be slightly damaged or whatever, just cut around the damaged bits, or just leftover stuff. So I bought acres and acres of silk really cheaply, and I could sell, and I can still sell my cravats at just £40 in English woven silk. Just as an aside, I made some for a very well Savile Row company, and they used to sell them at 95. So now there's only one way to tie a cravat, and let's just do it. The standard British cravat, you see now, in the 1950s a middle class English chap would come home and maybe take his tie off, but even in the home, still want to look a bit smart, and he put a cravat on. And in golf clubs, strict sort of tie rules, you were allowed a cravat to go with your blazer. So it's just under and over, like, it's not even a knot, it's just sort of strangling knot like that. And then square that up, like that, and tuck it inside your shirt. And now, the beauty of English woven silk is that it sort of grips itself really well. I will not have to touch this for the rest of the day. It will stay exactly like that. Now, there's some beautiful cravats made by Tootle. They made fabulous scarves and they made cravats. The problem with them is the scale. They were a little bit on the small side, and the nature of the rayon type fabric that they're made from meant that they'd slip. And it's an unusual thing. You put on your Tootle cravat in the morning, and it was okay for half an hour, and then it would sort of slip down and the knot would sort of slacken off. And so you'd adjust it. And like 20 minutes later, it would slip down again. And it seemed to get a shorter and shorter time, maybe as it warmed up or something. So they were fabulous patterns, lots of really great paisleys, and there were rock and roll motifs and everything. They made super designs. They're very collectible. But they didn't work really well as cravats. Cravats got to be English woven silk, really, to be good. And I used to use a couple of fashion students to make cravats for me. And I was selling some in my Jermyn Street shop once. And I just tried one on myself, and I felt a little prick in the side of my neck. And I took the cravat off, and I found a pin in there. Because I'm making these pleats, people making them will pin it and then press it. And then I found another one. I thought, bloody hell, I wonder how many cravats I've sold and people have had them impaled into their neck with these pins that the girl forgot to take out. But yeah, cravats. The French are a little bit short on words, so they have the same word for cravat and tie. Americans call these an ascot, which is obviously quite wrong. But there is a cravat that you'd wear for Ascot. Now, completely different to the one that goes inside your shirt. This goes outside your shirt, and classically for Ascot the only colours permitted would be black and silver, or grey for a tie. Things have changed now and things have to move on. It's very, very easy to tie. This one's a little bit longer than it needs to be, but people tie them in different ways. Now, it's pretty simple. I hope I'm going to get this right. Just up like this, and it's just a knot like a tiny parcel. So here we go. You should sort of create a sort of barrel like that. Now, there's no rules on this. The barrel that you make can be any size you like. It can be really tight, can be small. But then you fold, I'm doing this without a mirror. You fold the sides over like that. I'm just going to check in my mirror. Yeah, you see, that's absolutely fine. Now, your waistcoat would cover the V down to there. And then you sometimes put a pearl in like that. A little pearl on a little sticker thing. If it's English woven silk, it probably doesn't need it. But if it's not English woven silk, it won't grip quite so well. But that's your Ascot or formal wear cravat. I've been buying vintage things for so long. I've got quite a big storeroom. There's stuff that I bought maybe maybe 40 years ago and forgotten about. I've just discovered this. Actually, they were all in the dustbin bag. I put them in this clear box. These are ties. I don't remember when I got hold of them, but brings back a few memories. See, we used to have fashion. There was a thing called fashion, and you were either in fashion or not in fashion. There was one width for trousers. There was one length for skirts. There was one style for hair, and you were either in the fashion or you were not in fashion. Now people dress with what, goths and punks and beatniks, and there's no longer a single fashion that you can be in or out of. And I think maybe that ended in the 1970s and the late 1960s, when there was still a style which you had to be in tune with. In the early 60s, jackets were 3-button and narrow lapel. In the 50s, there'd be 2-button. In the 70s, it went back to 2-button, but with a wider lapel, and sometimes quite extreme 70s stuff with big flared trousers and platform heel shoes. I avoided those myself, but I quite applaud people that had the bravery to step out in the old platform heels on a Saturday night. But there was a time when Jermyn Street needed to catch up with Carnaby Street, and they met in the middle. Places like Turnbull and Asser would do wide kipper ties, but super quality, from English woven silk, and they were made in England. And so you get ties like this, and I don't think people are brave enough to wear these now. It's odd with that sort of dashing bravery that young men used to have, and taking a long time to get the perfect knot. We just don't seem to have that now. A lot of young chaps can't even tie a tie. But I just look at these ties, it's quite exciting. I'll lay a few of these out. A lot of these are polyester. It's got some courting couple with some nefarious activity next to a tree just there. Now this is pretty bright. It's made in the Philippines. Well, that must be Philippine style. Nice bit of colour here. Let's get some of these exciting. Yeah. Now that's a bit of a statement. These are all 1970s ties. Oh, this is made by Tootle, who are really famous for making dressing gowns and ties, and they obviously ventured into polyester for a short time. Nice bit of paisley here with some sort of Greek octopus or something on there, half octopus. Another Tootle tie. Now, this looks like fun. English woven silk, rather nice. I just wish people would wear this stuff now. This is some, it's like a Chinese chap maybe in a paddling pool, or maybe he's treading wine or something. Nice bit of flower power for you there. Bit of, for the bit of monochrome there. Trying to find some of the more no, yeah. That's a bit of a statement. And it's from Next. Now, yeah, I think this, I'd like to give this one an outing. This is silk. Might be from, I've an idea. Oh yeah, it's Turnbull and Asser. Now the funny thing, this reminds me of ties that were produced by someone who I think escaped from Turnbull and Asser and started a very, very exciting shop called Mr. Fish. It was just in between Jermyn Street and Savile Row. Not sure how long he was there. I don't think he was there for longer than 5 or 6 years, but he produced some amazing clothes. Very, very stylish stuff. I've not seen these ties for maybe 30 years. Some quite amazing stuff here. Nice big paisley tie. Oh, by Hardy Amies. Hardy Amies what a chap. Queen's dress designer, of course, and also head of secret operations in Belgium during the war. I just like to think, and I was very lucky enough to meet him once, I just like to think that he's head of secret operations, and assassinations and blowing up bridges and things in Belgium and killing people. I just like to think he'd be plotting that with maps of Belgium and maybe doodling dress designs on the side of the maps. But he was quite a guy, and nobody knew anything about what he did in the war until his obituary. Kept quiet about it, as you're supposed to do. Hardy Amis, great Englishman. Some bold stripes there. Jaeger. Now, my own factory was in Ipswich, and I was lucky enough to inherit some really highly skilled people that had been trained at the Jaeger factory. Their two-button jacket was probably the most copied pattern by tailors. Another Jaeger item. I suspect that these ties would have been made from leftover cloth from ladies' suits, which if you wanted a lady's wool suit or a coat and you wanted the best one, you'd go to Jaeger to get it. Ties are a great way of using up odd bits of cloth that you have left over. Christian Dior, yeah. Now these can look pretty cute on girls too. Girls not being held back by the sort of conventions that we have over widths of ties now. Men just aren't brave enough to wear these wide kipper ties anymore. Quite a lot of Turnbull and Asser here, I'm discovering. Yeah, and this is the sort of thing, when I said Turnbull and Asser met Carnaby Street head on. Turnbull did these sort of fabulous shirts with quite big collars. And you'd see people like Michael Caine strutting about wearing with a big tie like this, with a huge knot tied. But they were pretty good, and the quality was super. Clubman, yeah, a name to conjure with. And here's a 1950s tie, so a complete contrast. This is a 1950s tie. Leslie Bryant, this is Burlington Arcade, and this is the width tie that the Teddy Boys would wear, and stylish young men about town who were buying their German street ties in this width. So let's just compare. We've got a 1970s tie and a 1950s tie. It's just exactly twice as wide there. This is another 1950s tie, a bit boring. I met Lawrence Harvey, the actor, once, and he used to live near me in Moscow Road in Bayswater. And we had a competition to see who could tie the smallest knot in a tie. Come in. And I wanted to tie one that was smaller than my thumbnail. That was the idea. Now here's another 1950s tie. You could tie a very tight little knot in that. And a little gem here, Yves Saint Laurent. Yves Saint Laurent never really caught up with Jermyn Street, but when we look back now at things that he made, it's pretty stylish, and his quality was pretty good.